All right, today we're going to take a trip around the globe. But we're not just looking at sights. Nope. We're stepping inside classrooms to get a handle on this huge global phenomenon teaching English to some of the world's youngest students. Let's get right into it.
Or, how a kid in Finland picks up an English song. And you might think, well, how hard can it be? But behind that very first hello is this incredible world of strategy, culture, and a really deep understanding of how little minds tick. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So first, let's just zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. You see, teaching English to young kids isn't just some small niche thing. It's a massive worldwide effort. It's being pushed by everything from government policies that see English as essential for the future, all the way down to parents who just want to give their kids every possible advantage. And what's really fascinating is how differently it's done around the world. In a lot of Asia, for instance, you've got intense pressure from parents and exams, which leads to these very structured, formal classrooms. But then you hop over to Europe, and it's often built right into their early education system, with a big focus on communication and, well, play. Then in Africa and Latin America, the push is all about jobs and global opportunity. But progress is sometimes held back by a lack of resources. So, right there, you have 3 different regions with 3 very different approaches.
Okay, so even with all those regional differences, what's universal? What do all the best classrooms for young learners have in common, no matter where they are on the map? Well, it turns out they share some really crucial features.
And here's what they look like. The absolute foundation is play. Kids learn by doing. So the classroom should be buzzing with activity. And lessons, they're chopped up into short, punchy tasks because, let's face it, a 5-year-old's attention span is not long. Teachers are using everything they can, pictures, hand gestures, you name it, to hit multiple senses at once. And the goal at first isn't perfect grammar. It's all about getting kids comfortable with listening and speaking, usually through really catchy songs, fun games, and great stories. But even with all those things in common, culture still plays a huge role. On one hand, you've got that highly structured style you might see in parts of East Asia. It's very teacher-led with really clear steps and lots of group repetition. But on the other hand, you've got a more exploratory model, kind of like what you'd find in Scandinavia. Here, it's much more about child-led discovery, flexible goals, and small group projects. And look, neither one is better or worse. They just come from totally different philosophies about education. So we've talked about the classroom, the environment. But what about the how? What are the actual strategies and the tools that teachers are using to make English finally click for a 6-year-old? This, my friends, is where the magic really happens. One of the most powerful tools in this toolkit is something called Total Physical Response, or TPR. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but it's actually incredibly simple and it works so well. The whole idea is to connect a word directly to an action. So when the teacher says, jump, the kids don't stop to think about what it means in their own language, they just jump. It creates this really strong physical memory, completely skipping the need for translation. It's brilliant. Of course, it's not all just jumping around the room. Great teachers use a whole bag of tricks. Storytelling gets the imagination going. Songs and rhymes help sounds and rhythms stick in the brain. Group activities teach kids how to actually use the language with each other. And they use this crucial technique called scaffolding, which just means giving a lot of support at the beginning, maybe showing a picture, and then slowly taking that support away as the child gets more confident on their own. But, having a great strategy is only half of it. The actual materials a teacher uses, the physical things, the digital tools in the room, they are just as important. They're what really bring the language to life. And the modern toolkit is so cool and diverse. You've got the classics, right? Flashcards, puppets, and something called realia, which is just a fancy term for bringing real objects into class, like an actual apple to teach the word apple. But now you've also got amazing interactive games and videos. The secret is finding the right balance, and even better, getting the kids to create their own stuff, like drawings and crafts. That gives them a real sense of ownership over their learning. Okay, so we've looked at the classrooms, the strategies, and the tools. But what if I told you there's a single unifying philosophy that connects all of these best practices? Well, it turns out there is. And it comes from a name you probably already know, Montessori. And this is where it all comes together so beautifully. Take a look at these 5 pillars of Montessori. Hands-on materials? Hey, that's our flashcards and real objects. Freedom of movement? That's total physical response right there. Learner independence, multi-sensory learning, a carefully prepared environment, every single one of these core principles lines up perfectly with what the best modern English classrooms are doing all over the world.
It's all connected.
So, in the end, it doesn't matter if it's a high tech classroom in Seoul or a play based group in Spain. The real goal is exactly the same. It's not about memorizing grammar rules. It's about creating a space where a genuine love for language can just grow naturally, led by a child's own curiosity. And that brings us to a final, maybe even bigger question. If these methods, the ones based on play, on movement, on independence, are the absolute best way to teach something as complicated as a new language, well, what else could we be teaching this way? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is the future of all learning just more thoughtful, purposeful play? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.